Welcome to the Tip Off Podcast. This is a special episode. Ian Cantelo, one of my best friends from Canada for sure, hands down. Lived in the state like I did, served in the military, so we appreciate everything he's done for us. Definitely one of the best trainer I know in Calgary. If you want to throw up and, and get in shape, you gotta go to him. Obviously now he's coaching us as well a prep program called CTA West. Definitely doing a great job. Anyway, I don't want to give it to all the information about you, Ian. I'm gonna let you go first. So, Ian, tell us about you a little bit.
So I say I'm a guy from Calgary. I'm a Calgary kid. I grew up in the northeast part of Calgary. I played a little basketball growing up, and then I decided that I wanted to have a little adventure in my life, so I joined the Canadian military. Did that for over a decade, and then when I got out, reconnected with a family friend, one of my brothers that I grew up with in Lance Milton, and then we just kind of started doing the training thing together. He had already been doing the strength and conditioning for about a year, 2 years before I kind of came on, but yeah, we just kind of added in that element. He's a football guy, played in the CFL, and then I brought that basketball style. So, we like to say that we're sports specific. We understand the game. We understand what it takes to get to that next level. And I like to say that what I bring to the table is the mental side. I like to build the strength of the mind, and then the strength of the body is the side effect.
That's wow, you're going deep already. Okay, let's slow it down a little bit here.
Let's
go back. Let's go back to day one. Now let me tell the viewers like obviously you're the right of high school and college. Obviously, not everybody had the same opportunity to go to high school or get a scholarship. Tell us a little bit about how it started for you with sports in general.
Yeah, sports. I mean, I grew up. We played everything. We were outside kids. We're outside every day, all day. It didn't go home until the street lights were on. Mom was calling, looking for us. Football, baseball. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that baseball is my favorite sport. I love baseball.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I got Yankees tattoos on me. I love baseball. But, basketball was the sport that I excelled at the best. I was the sport that I kind of clicked with. I grew up, I played football. I ran track.
Wow.
I did kind of everything. Like I won cities for 800 meter. And then I also did cross country running. So, I mean, I did whatever. I was just active.
So you weren't like, was that it? So you were more of like a broad, like a overall sport guy. You didn't just stick to one sport specifically.
No. So I played basketball. Like I always played basketball. Like I always was playing. But that's just, I was always playing football. I was always playing baseball. I was all like, I did, my friends, we would, we get that call or we would meet at the park and we would just, we would wrestle. Like we would do everything. We're just kids. We're outside. So,
by the time
I was always just an athlete. I was always around athletics. I always seemed to like value in it. And so I like to say that, the reason I did so well in the military is because I understand the dynamics of a team. And out of the military, I was able to use the military add-ons from team dynamic, and that's what's made me a coach.
Wow, that's amazing. So now let's say I'm guessing let's go grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. You're about to graduate from high school. What's the next step? What's going through your mind right now?
Yeah, so in high school, my family had moved. My parents also got a divorce kind of around my grade 11 year. And athletics was like a lot of kids, they say, basketball is what kind of kept me in school, which is, it's great to have a motivator that kind of keeps you kind of get on the right track of the things that you got to do, right? Keeping that baseline covered. So yeah, if it wasn't for basketball, I don't know how well I would have done, in those early formative years with my parents kind of getting a divorce, my mom going through with some mental health stuff. We would go 6 months at a time with no lights in the apartment, just me and her. And so, yeah, the times were tough, but I don't like to get into the struggle wars because, people had it worse than me and, I had it better than some and I had it worse than others. And that's just how life goes.
No, 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 no. Ian, this is a tip off podcast. We tell them about everything. And here's the
Yeah.
reason why, because again, I want to shine, I really want to shine awareness of, against athlete in general and how they feel mentally,
Yeah.
physically, the struggle that you go to each
Oh
every day.
yeah.
And I think that's a major, major, major thing you say, because most kid, like you say, there's some kids, for example, on the prep level, they have to leave home to go to another country or another
Yeah.
province, whatever the case might be. That's also when I look at it, that's also kind of like a separation from your mom and dad, meaning more
Oh,
the
yeah.
parents and you, right? So, tell me a little bit like how mentally you approach it. And obviously you were young, so you really didn't know much what was going on, but how did you approach it while still playing the game you love?
Yeah, no, I really like I used, basketball as that, that time to just be me, be free, compete as an athlete. Like I just love to compete. It was that thing that kind of kept me grounded.
Mm,
So yeah, growing up in high school, like I was a fairly good player. I played for kind of like Team Alberta. I was lucky enough to play. There wasn't really clubs when I was young, so there wasn't
right.
really clubs going on, but there was lots of kind of teams starting to pop up. And so yeah, like I was able to kind of jump on some teams and do some things. And I was very fortunate enough to have three high school coaches of that age category. One being Michael Richards, another being Sip Weeks, and another being Steve Weeb. That really kind of, they showed me a lot of love and they gave me a lot of parental fatherly advice and
Mm,
a shoulder for me to kind of lean on and like Mike Mike, I would, eat breakfast at his house before I would go to school. I would, sleep on his couch from time to time. Like he was that coach that really kind of helped me through. And I always knew that if I ever got the opportunity, that I'd want to, pay that forward.
right. So I guess in that sense, the moral of the story here in this is really find two or three people that you trust,
Oh
that'll
yeah,
mentor you and really stick with them and listen to what they say, right? Because
oh yeah,
without them, essentially, yes, you had your parents there, but they weren't really there for you, right? So having those
yeah.
three guys there really made a huge impact for yourself.
Oh yeah, they taught me how to be a man. They taught me how to like take care of my responsibilities. They taught me lots of things, and then that continued once I joined the military. Like those kind of like root issues, and those really like immature mindset stuff. And I was one of those guys that was like, oh, I'm resilient, nothing can me. But that's that that young man cloak of invincibility stuff, right? Once that starts to wear off, that's when you're going to really start to see the cracks in your mentality. That's when you're going to see the cracks in your development, and it's really gonna hurt you down the road.
Well, since we're on that topic, let's go right into it. How did you get up in the military? And to anybody or any kids who aspire or well, not aspire, but I know like kids may say, oh, I want to go there, I don't want to do this. But how did you get into it for the kids who may want to go to the military side of it? What's the
Yeah,
steps?
it's funny. Like I kind of always knew that was going to be the route that I was going to take. I remember in junior high I would think about it, and then I remember in high school I would think about it more often, and I would tell my friends like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, and then I get that, oh, don't do that, do that, and I would kind of like it would quiet down for three
Yeah.
months, and then I could feel it bubbling back up. Like I kind of always knew. I like to say like I'm bred to be a warrior. You drop me in any century of all time, and I'm gonna do well. Like you drop me in the Viking Age, I'm you drop me in the Templar Age, I'm doing it. Like that's just how I am. And I was. It's weird to say, but I was very fortunate to be able to join the military when I did. When there was a conflict to be had, there was training to be had, there was money behind the conflict. There was a really positive. There was a really like the Society of Canada and
Mm,
North America was behind the mission, and so
mm,
it needed to be a time. It's like the golden era of military. If you think about Vietnam, they didn't have that. You think about World War II, they didn't have the supports when they came back. We are very fortunate as soldiers that went to Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, like those areas that we're able to have ton of support from the government. We have a ton of support from our family, and we're able to have a ton of support just from like regular civilians, every
Wow.
people, right? So it's a weird concept because it's still conflict. Like it's still horrendous in nature. Um, I definitely
Right.
believe like I'm not a violent person by nature. I love everyone, but the reason why I joined the military was because I love my way of life. I love my family. I love my friends, and I was willing to kind of
Right.
stand in front and protect that.
So like, take me to your first week of training camp.
Yeah, no, man, it was a shock. It was a shock for it was like because I didn't know anybody that had ever been in the military. My grandfather had been in the Marines. I have family members that are in the U.S. military, but I didn't like not like on a level where we're like discussing it and it's like
Mm.
topic of conversation. It was really I just had this like internal drive that I wanted to do it, and then I just one day I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I put in my application. It was about a year, honest to the day. It was like almost a year until I left, and then when I landed for training, I remember standing at this desk doing like doc, and they were like, you know, you got to shave your beard off, right? And I'm like, like I was like, you know, I was an 18, 19-year-old kid, and I'm just like okay, like we're doing whatever has got to happen. And I remember telling my boys, like, one thing that is like, I was a little bit in the streets, like I was a little knucklehead before I left, but I remember saying like, oh, it's like it's basically prison. Like first guy that checks me, it's go time.
Right.
But man, honestly, like joining the military was the greatest experience of my life. I met some of the best people I've ever met. I still talk to guys, you know, regularly every couple of days. I was talking to a friend of mine last night. I was talking to my boy Jay Gorman that you know out in Halifax
Yeah.
earlier this week. So yeah, I like to say like I could travel from Vancouver to Halifax and never rent a hotel. I got
Facts.
friends everywhere.
Facts. We're not going to talk about when you came here. We had a great time. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
um, but okay, so now obviously you had a great time in the military. You did some great things. I'm guessing I'm not too sure how the story went, but did you end up saying, you know what, I'm done with it? How I'm guessing my question is, how was your transition between the military to now a basketball coach and a trainer?
Yeah, yeah. So to be honest, like I kind of anticipated that I was going to be in the military for the rest of my life. Like that was my career.
Hmm.
You find that thing that you just kind of like, you know, it's your position. You click. It's like everything's kind of working, and I really did find that, and it was great until I had a son. You know, I
Hmm.
had my boy Emery, who's 7 now, but once he was born, there was like this transition period where it was, you know, we're either gonna me and my wife at the time, it was like we're either gonna stay in this small town, Wainwright, Alberta, in the posting there, or I was gonna have to take a posting out of province. And my wife's family's all from Calgary and Alberta, and so was I found it to be very selfish if I decided to, you know, continue my career even though it would be at the detriment of my children being around their grandparents
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's wow, that's amazing because and that's the same thing. Lulu, same thing, same situation with mine. Played 2 years. Everybody knows I played pro and came here in Canada, played 2 years, could have kept playing. I was still young, like you said. I loved it, I enjoyed it. But as soon as I got my first daughter, everything just changed, right? So like now it's a different perspective and perspective I had where it's like, like you say, should I be selfish and take my whole team to Europe and move around left and right? Or should we just kind of stay here and build something special?
Yeah, and then I mean the transition honestly was not good. It was not fun. It was very difficult. Like
Yeah,
from
tell us about it.
like as a guy growing up on teams, like I played on sports teams my whole life. Like I was always part of something. So when I got
Right.
in the military, I felt very isolated. I felt as though like I was trying to find my feet. I was trying to like figure out what I was going to do. And part of the way I got out of the military is I had to secure employment before I would be able to be granted a release.
Mhm.
I ended up, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go work up north. I ended up going to work in Fort St. John, and I was doing like a safety job on an oil rig. And um, again, I found it very, very isolating. I met some great people. There's some guys from it that I still keep in contact with. I'm still in touch with, but I wanted to get out of the military so that I wouldn't have this selfish feeling that I was taking my family away,
Yeah.
my extended family. But then in doing so, I was gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No.
I was trying to find my way um, in being out of the military, but at the same time, I was away from my family. So I found it to be very difficult. And so I was very fortunate that Veterans Affairs Canada reached out to me and told me that I was eligible for some programs. So I ended up being able to I got paid to go to school and they paid for my school. Like I was
Mm.
very, very fortunate. And so I was able to kind of choose that next chapter in my life.
Yeah, I think it's, man, the transition between whatever you've done for so long, for you obviously being in the
Oh,
military and me being a professional athlete. Once you're done and you're trying to transition to something else, that has to be the
yeah.
hardest. It has to be the hardest thing I ever done. I mean, I can tell you right there. You know, I'm saying in public, I was literally depressed for like 3 weeks,
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
on the couch doing
Yeah.
nothing. Like
Transition anxiety isn't no joke. That's a real thing.
it is.
Thing.
It,
Like just as an example, so my friend that I was talking about that I was talking to yesterday, Brent McInnes, he is posted out to Winnipeg right now. But so we did workup training for a tour to go to Afghanistan in 2009. We did workup training together. So workup training is about 8 months. So we were together 24/7 for those 8 months. Then when
wow.
we were together for 10 and a half months. We would go, we slept in a sea can. So, think of a tiny room. The two of us slept in that for 10 and a half months. Like our bond between the two of us is like next level. And like I seen the guy head to toe covered in blood. I seen the guy cry. I seen terrible, horrendous things while deployed in a combat zone. And we dealt with those things all together, just me and him. And he had a daughter at the time. And so I remember like he was struggling with that being away from home and missing his family. And so me, watching my brother go through that, it affected me more than anything. I think there's this like misconception, especially like I feel there's a misconception when it comes to, post-traumatic stress disorder and mental health and all these things that have to do with military members. They don't realize that when we go overseas, that becomes our normal. So when we transition back, it takes 10 years. It took 10 years for the military to, mold me into the soldier that I was. So when I get out of the military, how long do you think it's going to take for me to transition? Like I have to deconstruct all those things,
Mm.
my brain, but now I'm doing it isolated.
Yeah.
It's difficult. And then so yeah, me and Brent, when we came back from tour about 2 or 3 weeks apart from each other, and we were getting in fights, like we were getting in arguments. We were like, and it was strictly because we were used to being together every single day, nonstop.
Mm.
Like when we were overseas, we would make movies. We called them Giuseppe's workshop, where we'd be like, I would build things because I like to be handy and stuff. So I would like build something, and he would film it and call me Giuseppe all day because I'm Italian. So it's funny, but everybody referred to us as Monster and Mumbles. My nickname when I was in the military was Monster, and Brent, everybody called him Mumbles. So we were just Monster and Mumbles everywhere we went. So when we transitioned out of the combat and transitioned back into civilian world, like man, that transition is no joke.
Wow.
First day I was back in Canada, I was still in my tan combats, driving to work. I haven't driven a normal vehicle in almost 2 years. And like someone cuts me off and my whole body up to my hips is out the window and I chuck a coffee at them. Like that's how like my trigger was like so fast. And so
Wow.
learning how to calm down and all that kind of stuff is tough, man.
Wow. Wow. That is wow. Yeah, that's crazy. That's insane. That's a good one to know. That's crazy. Okay, let's lighten up the mood a little bit. Let's fast forward. So now how did you met Lance and how did you guys form these mega, beast teams that you guys are killing every players in Calgary and just transforming their bodies. I mean, I've seen so many pictures, and I know people did. Starting with Fofo looking like.
Oh man, when Fofo came in with that picture with him flexing in front of the Edge basketball sign, I was getting like, oh man, you're gonna go to jail. Like you created this weapon.
Hey, I kid you
You
not.
know, it was like
Listen,
it was
listen. I
diet.
gotta, I gotta tell you this. I kid you not. We had, I think, well, like was like the second year of Halifax Prep. And I think that was the year where I punished AK, all those guys, and we were supposed to play Edge, and that was a big game. We couldn't wait for it because we had talent, they had talent.
Yeah.
That was the perfect timing. And I was swear to God, so that I seen that as soon as we saw Fofo come out, everybody was like, "What in the hell is that?" Not even what player is it? What is that? So tell us a little bit.
Monster.
Tell me.
Monster. The thing is, what people don't realize is that the reason why Fofo can do that is he is mentally tough, like mentally so tough. Like I remember being like Fofo, like talking on the phone with him and his parents and being like, "Listen, from now on, food is fuel. I don't care what you like to eat. This is what you're eating." And mom being like, "Well, I don't know," and I'd be like, "Come, mom, we got to do this." And then she's like, "Kate, fine." And then I had him on the diet, like the thing that people don't realize is that shape that we got in Fofo, that was online.
Really?
Yeah, like that period where he dropped the weight, he leaned out, gained muscle, all
Yeah.
he turned into that beast. I think of it, we probably did maybe 3 or 4 in-person sessions.
Really?
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize is that the connection that me and Fofo had was on a like it's on a different level. It's not like, hey, that's a kid that I help. It's my boy. That's my brother. That's my guy. I talk to him all the time. But at the time, it was like, hey, this is what we need to do. This is going to get you to that next level. And as soon as he started to see like little results, like once you start to see those little results, they become addictive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start picking up more and more, and then you're like, whoa, when am I going to slow down? And this life that we're living is all about optimizing and maximizing your potential. If you're not trying to do that, you're not trying to maximize who you are and what you can do, what are you doing? You're just
Right. Right. That's. I mean, that work that you did on Fofo was definitely amazing. Everybody can see it. So, kind of tell me a little bit how the business went from day one to now, where you guys are training so many clients and so many kids that you guys are changing.
So I moved back to Calgary, and I was kind of like I was transitioning into going back to university, and there was this kid at the time he was in grade 11. His name's Bars. To be honest, still to this day one of the best basketball players I've ever seen. He is a 6'7" point guard who plays like Carmelo Anthony. Like he is unreal. So we just kind of started doing little training sessions here and there. And then I kind of linked up with his older brother, Alex, and his older brother had played college level in Alberta. And he was trying to transition to go play pro in Iran because they're Iranian. So they're half Iranian, half Nigerian. That's a crazy food combo in the house. So he was making this transition. He was like, "Hey, like I'm trying to go play pro." He's like, "Yeah, I know. I heard that you used to play pro. So I thought that maybe you can kind of help me with some tips." And it really was like a one-on-one thing. Me and Alex, we were together. At least 3 days a week, 4 days a week. We were going to the gym, and we were just putting up shots. We were running through drills. Like it was like not really like a client-based thing. It was like almost like a training partner. And then once I was doing that with him, other guys were seeing what we were doing, and they're just like trying to act like, "Hey, can I jump in?" And then it was like, "Yeah, no worries, just jump in." And then it just kind of started to snowball to a point where it just needed to it needed to evolve. And I was coaching high school basketball at the time. I was coaching at a school called Western Canada High School. And so I was coaching, and we were going to a game. And I seen my boy Lance, who I grew up with. Like I've known Lance for 20 plus years. We played street hockey together. We played, we're just young kids running around the neighborhood together. And I seen him, And I just went up and I said, hey, like, what are you up to? He was there with his girl, Leanne. And we just, we were just chopping it up. We were just talking like what we're doing lately. And he said, yeah, I'm doing strength training. And I said, oh yeah, like I'm doing skill development stuff with basketball. And he's like, yeah, we should talk. And really it was like that quick conversation between, mutual that on the same mental wavelength. We just kind of clicked. And then, he came to a couple training sessions I was doing. I went to a couple strength training sessions that he was doing. And then we started to see where our similarities were with the mental side, and how, like in the military, the training that I would do, yeah, like physically it is part of it, but it's more about discipline and accountability and things like that, like the real root, and like just training adversity in life. And so,
Yeah.
We started to add, and, we started to like, and then we just started to add, and we started to like, we had like this little like melting pot of like ideas. And then that's when we had kind of like 6 or 7 like fully dedicated guys that were like, yeah, I'm like, I want to train, whatever we're doing. And that was like the petri dish years. Like, man, like I'm surprised we didn't kill somebody. That first like year or two, those guys were weapons. Like,
Yeah.
weapons. Yeah, it was nuts. Like, people were seeing these transitions. Like, Menyang Tong.
Yeah.
So Menyang is like a phenomenal athlete. Decided like going from his grade 11 to grade 12 year, he was going to really dedicate himself to the weight room. And so we just helped facilitate that. Really, like we're like, yeah, like whatever you need, we'll help you along the way. All we did was we put up workouts on, and we made out a plan for kind of like 8 months, and then we would just release bits by bits to him. And it got to a point where when he got, and we're like, trust me, when it gets to this season, it's going to all be worth it. Just trust me. And we were talking like that for months and months and months. And then when it came to the season, I think the real kind of pinnacle moment was, he played a 40-minute game. He played the entire game. He dunked on 2 kids with like a minute and a half left. And this video went viral. I was seeing it, and it was a mean dunk. And everyone's like gets at the guys that he dunked on. But what I really like is I like to celebrate that moment, because if you were in Yang the year prior, Menyang's always been a jumper, and he's super athletic, but he didn't have the control and the ability to absorb contact when in the air. And that's what basketball players, that's what we need. It's not about how high you can jump. It's how high can you jump and control it, and how high can you land and not get injured. And so the year prior, when he was in grade 11, he was having all these little bang up injuries. His Achilles was burnt, his, calves were sore. And then fast forward that next year, he put that work in, and he's, dunking on people with a minute and a half left in the game, hasn't subbed off the whole game, and he's just a weapon.
Wow. That's it. Wow. That was amazing. That's crazy. So right now, where's Menyang at? Where's he? So tell me.
Menyang plays for University of Calgary, and he's just doing a great job, man. He's honestly an amazing young man. He did the right things. He had his grades together. He got into a program that was coming off winning a national championship, and he's finding his feet like every other young athlete. I mean, if you go into a program and you're the guy right away, you might have gone to the wrong program. Right? Being held accountable. We got to remember at the end of the day what basketball is about. Basketball is about taking young athletes and teaching them life lessons, and making it so that once they're out of the nest and they're on their own, they're able to survive and thrive. It's not about like how many games you can win, how can I exploit this athlete to get what I want. It's not about that. It's much more than that. That's why I say, as a trainer, as a skill trainer, or as a strength trainer, as a coach, I'm in the relationship business. My job is to build a relationship with someone so that I understand their goals in life, where they want to get to, so I can help facilitate them through the hurdles, through the troubleshoot the things that I've seen. How can I help you? And it's not that my opinion matters more than anyone else. I'm just an opinion. and I might have seen one or two things, and I might help you avoid one or two incidents in your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. We speak the same language. We drink the same Kool-Aid.
That's right.
I mean, I think that's probably one of the reasons why both our company are pretty successful. Like you said, man, we're in the business of relationship. I always believe, I always say this: if we are servicing the kids the right way, everything else going to take care of itself. My job is to help them chase the goal or the dream they want to do, and of course, help them while we're doing it, because certain things that you might make mistakes or whatever, we made mistakes that now we can kind of tell them, hey, you might not want to do this, you might want to do that. And then other times, is if you don't mind touch base on that, especially now that I want to kind of go back to the prep route. A lot of kids come into programs. A lot of kids want to go to college. A lot of kids want to go to NCAA or U Sports. Tell me a little about personally, what do you think the preparation for a player at grade 11, grade 12 should be if he wants to go to the next level?
So even as a coach that's in prep, like I got roots in prep. However, this is my opinion. If you have the grades, the offers, and the skill to go to university, don't play prep. If you're going to play prep because you want like some hype, you want to get a little mixtape video, you want all that stuff, it's a place for you. Because I promise you, it is not all glitz and glamour the way it's portrayed. It is not this like golden ticket, all that foolishness. It's so much more than that. Like there's so much more than just the like, the cameras on the side and all that stuff. We're really, so what you're talking about earlier is that you're taking this person out of their comfort zone, and you're holding them accountable, and you're teaching them about, there's little adversities. Okay, they're away from home for the first time. Now that's an adversity. They got to overcome that. I think in life, we have these training hurdles. So it's, I deal with something when I'm 5 or 6 or 10 or 14. That's a training hurdle. Hurdles in life and adversity in life doesn't get smaller. As you get older, car loans, you're going to have kids, you're going to have a mortgage, you're going to have jobs to balance, you're going to have, you're going to want to have a passion project in your life, as well as being able to provide for your family. There's so much more. And so those roots that you're learning as a young athlete, they pay dividends. There's a really good study that I read the other day, and it was talking about how 1/3 of university graduates go on to be happy and successful in their field of study. But that university athletes that graduate, they go on to be 85% happy and successful in their fields, right? So that just that normal guy going to school, yes, he's going to graduate and he's going to find something, but that doesn't mean that he's going to find the same things. Athletes have learned how to deal with adversity multiplied many, many times over, going up through high school, finding a school to play at, finding their fit in that program, fighting for minutes, balancing that against their needing a job, maybe needing to figure out when they're going to study, all those things, being away from home, girlfriends. How many athletes are like, oh, my girl, or oh, my boyfriend wants me to be around? Like there's so many levels of adversity that you deal with as an athlete. So once you get to the workforce, you're a troubleshooting machine. You learned how to balance these things.
Right. That's true. That's very true. And let me ask you a question. If a player, what's the criteria to you as a coach when you recruit a player to come to your program or anything like that? What are kind of like the 5 things that you look at for a player? So
well, first thing is communication.
Wow. Hold up.
Yeah. It's the first.
I'm so happy you just said it. Say that one more time.
Communication is key. If I can communicate with a young athlete, and I'm trying to talk to you about your dreams, all I'm saying is like, what do you want? What makes you tick? And if I can't communicate with that, if they give me the cold shoulder, they're like, oh, I'm still thinking about deciding if I want to. And you're like, cool, then go kick rocks. I would rather work with a kid that has maybe a little less talent, but they got that drive. One thing that I like to talk about is that if you look at any major city, you look at the top 25 players in that city, high school players, top 25 players, The top five are not the ones that are getting the scholarships to universities. They may have got in trouble. They might got a girlfriend. They might not got no grades. So, the top 25, of those 25, maybe five of them, and I'm talking about like the top
Yeah.
premier 25 players in the city in the high school divisions, maybe five of them are going to land somewhere. And of those five that land, maybe two are going to stick. Right? They might be like, oh, I don't like the role. I don't think the coach understands my vision. I think, oh, I don't like the city I'm in. I don't like this. I don't like that. I'm going home. The amount of people I hear about come home Christmas time and don't go back. The first thing I think, like they weren't ready to surrender to the system, and they weren't ready for the level of accountability and expectations.
Wow, that was a gem right there. And that's so true. You're right. You're absolutely right. A lot of kids, the top five. Wow, that's amazing. You just said that's a really, really good stat. Top 25 kids. Most of the top five kids don't make it because they have such a different view of themselves. And when they get to the destination, it's like, oh, I'm this and that, instead of kind of bringing back themselves down and really learn and trying to grow.
Yeah, we got a problem. We definitely have a problem happening in the kind of the lower levels of basketball, the club level, the high school levels, that where we're not teaching them enough about accountability.
Yeah.
With far too many people that are like, oh, I got some free shoes for you. Let's go to this tournament over here, and they're just happy to have this player on their team. But that's exploitation. If you take a player on your team strictly for their ability to play and not because that you're going to be able to help them, you're exploiting that kid. And then the failure rate for that exploitation is much higher because you haven't taught them about accountability. You haven't taught them about adversity. You're not making phone calls to push them to the next place because you're like, oh, those coaches are like, they're just so worried about intake that they're not worried about what's happening with that kid moving on to the next place.
I love the fact that we're on this topic, and I want to ask you a question. What do you think in Canada we need to do to be able to be? And I think personally, I think skill wise, we almost, if not the same level.
Not
skill.
Not at all. Mm-hmm.
But what do you think we need in Canada to get to that level, like state level, USA, and just compete at the highest?
Yeah. So we talked about this the other day.
I know.
Yeah, like the level of compete, when you grow up in a big city, when you grow up in like that environment, you're competing for everything. Like you talk to parents, they're like, oh, we're really trying to get our kid in this preschool. They're competing to get their kid in that preschool. I'm really trying to get my kid to, get involved in this or that. So they're like, the parents are competing on that level just to kind of put their kids in the right place. And that passes down, the kids are competing all the time. It's culture. It's
culture.
It's nature, but that doesn't mean that we can't do it. Canada has players that are hungry. We have players with the high skill set. You look at the NBA right now, how many of the Canadian players are playing at a high skill set, high level, and are very competitive. There's so many. I think what it really boils down to is the direction that our coaching is taking. We really need to, as a coaching community, decide no more coddling, no more exploiting, and we're just going to get after it, and we're going to teach them the basics, and we're going to really enforce discipline. We're going to teach them about accountability, and we're going to hold them accountable. I definitely like to think of the world in Proverbs. There's an old proverb that says, you don't prepare the road for the child, you prepare the child for the road. So we need to, as a society, as a community, start to really dedicate ourselves to making children that are ready to be out on their own. Coddling is the new pandemic, right? Once COVID's over, that's the next pandemic, is coddling. And we hear a lot of stuff about mental health and failure rates and things like this, but it's not on the individual. Like, yes, you have a choice in everything that you do, but you also are ultimately responsible for yourself. If you're not putting in the work, you're going to fall short. if we have leaders in our community that are not holding you accountable, you're going to fall short, because the first time you come up against that adversity, it's going to be like the world is speaking Japanese to you. You're not going to understand what's going on, and you're going to turn and you're going to run back to your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a sustainable method.
Wow. You just all facts. You just speaking all facts. Listen, before we end this podcast, I want to know what's the next step for Ian Cantelo and, as a whole. What is the next step? Let's everybody know. What's the plan here?
You know what? I don't like. I go where I'm needed. I go where as like the world directs me. I don't have I'm not a type of guy that's like I got a 10-year plan and I'm Xing off. I don't like to live my life with finish lines, because what happens when you develop a finish line, once you get there, you get comfortable. And slogan at Athletic Edge is you are never done. Like you're always trying to optimize yourself as a human being, optimize yourself as an athlete, optimize yourself as a father, optimize yourself as a husband, optimize yourself as part of the society. I'm always should be trying to better myself. If I stop that journey and I stop trying to gain knowledge and gain that kind of like that, keep that hunger, that I'm stagnant. If I'm stagnant, what am I doing?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Man, Ian, I can't wait. Well, one thing for sure, I can't wait for you to come and have the facts again, especially for the young guys. I can't wait for them to have you one of